Let's begin with Tehillim and Tzedakah, as we always do. Chapter 105, 125. Shir Malas Abaytchim Badilei Kahabasein Le'imet Le'ilam Yeshef Yishleim Hov V'Savala Vadinei Saviv Le'yama Miyata Vadelam Klei Nuach Shevet Haresh Al Gelar Al Tzedikim Malishlach Al Tzedikim Avlasim Yedei Meitiv Adnei Tevim V'Shalom Le'Beis V'Amatim HaKalkalesim Yelichim Adnei Pele Yavan Shalom Al Yisrael. Amen. Tzedakah. I just received this article that appeared in J-Post, I guess yesterday. Just read to the beginning of the article. Where was it? Mandel. The heading is, it's from the Jerusalem Post. Will Chabad lead American Jewry? By Levi Stessin. Under the headline it reads, Zohran Mamdani's election as the mayor of New York City is the final nail in the coffin containing the deceased body of Jewish power in American politics. That's fairly obvious. Let me just read his opening paragraph. The crisis engulfing American Jews is all-encompassing. It is a crisis of anti-Semitism, identity, tradition, and belonging. It is also a crisis of communal structures. Is there an organization that represents American Jews? Is there an address to which one can write to reach the community? There are no definite answers. But there was a time not long ago when the answers would be clear, ready, available, and well known. For many decades, American Jewry was represented by the Jewish Federations of North America, the Conference of Presidents of Major American Jewish Organizations, the American Jewish Committee, AJC, the Anti-Defamation League, functions the legal arm of the other three organizations. The delineations and duties within the organizations were clearly marked. And he describes their functions. I give out. Can't. Try to read an article and all the ads are destroying it. Okay. Yeah. Yet, he says, all of them, the federations, the conference, AGC, ADL, are still around, yet they ceased to represent anything or anyone. The communal structure of synagogues and local Jewish organizations has collapsed. The political power, the main force behind the former strength of those organizations, has imploded. Zohran Mamdani's let's just get. Can't read this. It just keeps ads keep on popping up, and I just don't want them. Must be a way. Must be a way to get rid of all this. I don't know what it is. Okay, I just want to read to you the salient line. Here's the line I liked most. For some time, the federations across America and the conference, the other big, huge American organization, it's the organization of all presidents of all organizations. I give out. So for some time, the federations, etc., pretended that nothing changed. But the election of an open anti-Semite in the most Jewish city in America projected an undisputed picture of the emperor having no clothes. His question is, so who will lead American Jewry? Who is surviving all this and flourishing? His answer is Chabad, and he has his comments to continue. You can look it up, dear friends. Read it online on the Jerusalem Post. So I thought that our meetings on Friday, I'd love to read to you from this little book. It's called In the Trenches. It's the story. It's written by a couple who are Chabad Shluchim in a place called Kulaga. You've never heard of Kulaga? I'm sorry, Kaluga. It's a small city in Western Russia. Both of them come from non-observant backgrounds. Both of them actually, I think, come from Romania. Their parents come from Romania. Non-observant homes, and now they are shluchim there, and they both write so beautifully one-page stories about life in the trenches. They mean this, of course, spiritually. Russian Jewry being cut off from Judaism for 70 years, and Chabad is there everywhere like them, small cities, small towns, bringing about the great Renaissance and the revival. And these are anecdotes of their life on Shlichus as Chabad emissaries in Kaluga. It was very hard for me to find a picture of them. Imagine there's a book they both wrote. Each one wrote half the book, and their own picture. I had to hunt to find it. Here's a picture of the husband, Michael, leading a Farbrengen. And there was one picture of his wife, the family, buried in the book. This is, they're wearing Purim costumes, 2019. She's the one, obviously, the mother, you can see, that's the wife and the children. I had to search to find a picture of them. So it's a stunning book, which my wife and I, when I first got the book a number of years ago, it was published 2021, Nacham and I would read a story every Friday night at the Shabbos table of this book. Now, you can get it if you want. It's called In the Trenches, and it's a series of these books of this similar genre. Their name, the authors are Michal and Nama. Her name is Nama, and the family name is Oishi. Even the dedication, the beginning of the book, this is what it reads. He says to my wife, Nama, Michal, she dedicates the book to my fellow emissaries across the globe, Chabad Shluchim all over the world. So I'm going to read to you, if you don't mind. These are the roots. The story I'm going to read to you is the story of Michal's father, subsequently emigrated to Israel. Sorry, his mother. This is her as a child. Her name is Sarika. This is Michal's mother as a child. Listen to her story. It's all of one page. Looking out the window, the 5-year-old Sarika saw something that caught her attention. She ran to call her father, Mihai. Papa, come see this strange person. Who is he? Where is he from? It was indeed an uncommon sight in 1950s common Bucharest. An elderly man with a long beard and a flat fur hat, a shtreimel, was walking down the street. Sarika's father looked through the window, his face registering surprise. It had been a long time since he had seen a Hasidic Jew decked in a shtreimel, the fur-trimmed hat. Unsure what to say to his daughter, Sarika, he finally mumbled, "Tomorrow I will explain to you." In truth, he did not want to offer an explanation. He did not want to tell his daughter that she was a Jew, living in a country where Jewish life was almost impossible, where Jewish institutions had been shuttered and the practice of religion severely restricted. This is Bucharest in the 50s under communism. As an engineer, Mihai also knew that if he expressed any hesitation about his allegiance to the communist government, he'd be out of a job. Still, the next day he took his young daughter, Sarika, for a walk that ended at the Jewish cemetery. They made their way between the graves until they reached 2 headstones inscribed with the names Baruch and Sarah Laurer. "Your grandparents are buried here," he said quietly. "They were Jews, like the man you saw yesterday." "Sarika, you are also a Jew. Always remember that." The small child shook her head, not fully comprehending his last words. "He never told me I was a Jew," she thought. "And now he's telling me to never forget that I am one?" From his pocket, Mihai took out a chain with a small Star of David and placed it around her neck. There in the cemetery, he taught her for the first time how to recite the Shema prayer. Sarika never did forget her father's words. As a young adult, she seized the first opportunity to emigrate to Israel. There she married Bruno and had 3 children, one named Michael Binyamin, after her father. I am Michael Binyamin, that son, who is now the shliach in Kaluga. I later learned that Rabbi Mordechai Frankel, a leader of the Bostonite Hasidic dynasty, lived in Bucharest in the 1950s. Until he moved to Israel in 1960, he walked the streets each Sabbath, proudly wearing his shtreimel. That was the Jew that his mother had seen. He was pursued by ruffians and received fines and beatings from the police, but it never crossed his mind to hide his identity. When his followers in Bucharest begged him to consider his own safety, he replied, "Who knows? Perhaps one Jew will see me from the window and remember that they are Jewish." And that's why this Rabbi Mordechai Frankel remained in Bucharest, seen by Sarika, who told her father, who told her in the cemetery the next day that she was a Jew. Michal Binyamin, the son of Sarika, who's now a shliach with his wife Anami in Kaluga, concludes the story with these words, friends. Listen carefully. "Today, I walk the streets of the former Soviet Union every Shabbat in bitter cold and scorching heat, decked in my prayer shawl, my talis. I do it so that my son will know that I am a proud Jew. But the thought also crosses my mind. Who knows? Perhaps one Jew will look out the window and remember that they are Jewish." I've told you these 2 stories, the article in yesterday's Jerusalem Post. The guy is not observant, but he's saying, who's going to lead us? Our institutions have collapsed. They have worshipped false idols. The Democratic Party democracy, America. Chabad, who's left? Now I'm sharing with you, in case you don't know. I'm inspired by these stories. The spirit of Chabad, this young couple, both Baal Tshuva, not observant, although grew up in Israel, and they tell their story and the life that they live. Want to hear another story? Okay. So this is Michael speaking. I'll never forget my uncle Benno and his glass eye. That eye attested to his suffering as a Jew. He says in brackets, he received it after a vicious beating from an anti-Semite that left him half blind. One late afternoon, continues Michael, when I was visiting Benno and my wife, my aunt Sima, I told my uncle that I was going to the synagogue for afternoon services. My uncle said, count 10 trees, he told me, and there you will have a quorum of 10, a minyan, for prayer services. He added, the uncle to the little boy, that's what a rabbi told me to do. I looked at him perplexed. What do trees have to do with humans? Then he told me the following story. As a young man in a German labor camp, he wanted to say the Kaddish prayer for one of his parents. But the prayer requires a minyan, a quorum. It was not possible to gather 10 Jewish men. There was, however, a rabbi. Among the prisoners was one person who looked like everyone else, skinny, weak, without a beard or head covering. For reasons unknown, the Jewish prisoners had titled this man, otherwise nameless, the rabbi. The rabbi had mercy on my uncle Benno, perhaps thinking that this boy would probably not survive the camp. The rabbi told him, so the boy wants to say Kaddish. This is in a German camp. He said, count 10 trees, and you'll have a minyan. Between the trees, the young orphan recited Kaddish. Decades later, in Israel, my uncle repeated the man's words to me in Yiddish. In his words, I heard the rustle of the pines. You can see why we're so enchanted with this book and why we would read it for months till we finished the final, savored the final words and page at our Shabbos table. Each story is just an exquisite gem. They express one thing, the neshama, the soul, that pintele yid, that spark that we all can all have, and that bonds us all and unites us all. We all have one challenge, friends, to allow it expression, to liberate our own Jewish soul. Good Shabbos. Thanks for joining. And next week, I'm not sure what will happen. We're leaving, God willing, to Seattle on Sunday, Nacham and I, to visit our 2 children and their families who live in the greater Seattle area. They are shluchim, they have Chabad houses, one of them in Mercer Island, the other in Capitol Hill. Our youngest is in Capitol Hill. It's a very difficult shlichus, as I talked about it. It's the woke capital of America. If you don't love Palestinians, if you don't consider Israel to be genocidal, if you're not gay or transvestite or something, then you're not normal. That's the norm there. But still, they find Jews one by one. It's different in Kulaga, Russia, a very different shlichus, that my children are animated with the same inspiration as Michael and Naama, with a burning love for their fellow Jew.
Baruch Hashem.
Inspired by our Rebbe as his emissaries. They are there with their children, with joy, gladness, and a deep gratitude that they are shluchim, that they are the Rebbe's emissaries. And they find one Jew and another Jew, invite them to their home, teach them, young, old, and incredibly, in both Mercer Island and Capitol Hill, they're building a small community. They'll never build an MTC. They'll never have a large building, a community as we have here in Montreal. But it isn't about building communities. It's about touching every Jew, wherever they might be, Kaluga or Capitol Hill, Seattle. So we're going there. It's a nachas trip. We don't get to see our grandchildren that often. It's far away. So it's a very precious time for us. We'll be there for virtually a week. And we'll tell you all about it, God willing, when we get back. Okay, friends, have a wonderful Shabbos.
Safe travel.
We should hear and share only good news.
Shabbat shalom, safe travels.
Safe travel. Shabbat shalom, Rabbi.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.